right, we'll go ahead and call this meeting of the special call meeting of the Brunswick House Authority together here today, February 21st, 2023. We will begin with a moment of silence, followed by the adoption of the agenda. Moment of silence begins now. Thank you. I will entertain a motion to...
You have reached the maximum time permitted for recording your message. If you're satisfied with the message, press 1. To listen to your message, press 2. To erase and re-record, press 3.
I mean, you can hold it there so long as we can hear them from the microphone. That's so you can work your device. Okay, that'll be just fine.
To your message, press 2. To erase and re-record, press 3.
Went to voicemail.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Does this need to be added to the agenda? Well, no, we can't add it to the agenda because it's a special call. Whatever's here, we have to do it.
Okay. What to know? Actually, that's the job plus that we should have had on the agenda because we are pressing just a deadline for those positions, and one of the things for those positions are just required that we bring on board, and the board needs to be aware of that. So I'm not sure.
Is the deadline before our next board meeting?
Yes. I think it's March the 1st. I believe it's March the 1st. Let me get it. March the 1st, I believe. Yes, March the 1st.
Yes.
March the 1st.
This wasn't advertised, so it wasn't.
We can't advertise the board of people.
No, I'm saying, when I say it wasn't advertised, it wasn't advertised on.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Is there,
I just made the agenda this morning. We were waiting on board to decide if they're going to do the meeting today as well, and the time, so.
but this meeting has been advertised though, right?
Yes.
Barring special considerations for the Job Plus grant and the deadline, unless the board wants to schedule another special call.
No. I mean, no. How long did y'all know that this had to be done by March 1st?
No, we've been communicating with the chair. I believe when we sent an email out, actually the last board meeting, they had something for this repair. I left, I'm not sure they got around to it now.
So by law, we only supposed to do this on the special call agenda. So then we have to table this because we can't do it. We have to do this on this agenda.
And according, am I looking at this right, just briefly?
March 1st.
March 1st, so between now and March 1st, we have to have another special call just simply for this. And preferably we could do that, because this is going to be relatively quick. We just need to make the approval of it
Yes.
so we can execute the already awarded job plus.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Other than that, I'll entertain a motion to...
So from my understanding, we can't add anything else to this.
cannot add anything to this agenda. This is a special call. It has to already be out there for us. We can only discuss what's on the agenda because it's not a regular meeting. That's my understanding. I may be wrong there, but that is my understanding of how special call meetings work.
The special call meeting thing in the newspaper just said it was going to be a special call meeting. He didn't specify what for.
He didn't specify specifically what for?
I just put in there a special call meeting. For today
So it
now.
could be added to the agenda.
So there was no already advertised agenda for the special call.
Yeah, 'cause I remember us adding stuff to the agenda before we had a special call.
So what is the protocol
Mr. Chairman,
when we put a
may I
special
now
call?
weigh in?
Yes, please, Mr. Commissioner Cullen, please weigh in.
I believe that our bylaws state that items can be added to a special call agenda if there is unanimous approval by all members of the board. So I don't think we will be able to add anything to the agenda today. I can't really see the room, but we are missing someone. Is that right?
Yes.
Commissioner Dobson is apparently at a doctor's visit at this point.
I believe that that is what our bylaw says, that everyone has to be present and approve any amendment, regardless of what was published.
Okay, so again, we'll just have to schedule yet another special call prior to March 1st for the Jobs Plus grant.
I have a
Thank you.
question. When you do a special call meeting in the newspaper, do you have to list what's gonna be on the agenda?
I haven't, no.
You don't have to.
No, I've never, unless you mean like an agenda? I never provided with a copy of the agenda.
Just said that we're having a special call on particular days.
Yes,
What, is that the protocol?
that's always what I've been shown.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion to, all right, Commissioner Cullen, we now have Commissioner Dobson also available via phone call. So,
Well, isn't that just a tournament, guys?
yes it is.
I think our bylaws would allow that, whatever y'all decide.
Okay, so either way it goes, I will still entertain a motion to accept this agenda.
A motion that we accept the special call meeting agenda for today.
I have a motion by Madam Vice Chair Bailey to accept the agenda. Do we have a second?
I like the second that I met.
We have to have a second first.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Dickerson. Is there any further discussion? This will be where anyone makes the amendment.
I would like to make an amendment to add this to the agenda, the Jobs Plus grant. I also would like us to move forward also with what we're going to do concerning interim executive director Baker's contract to the agenda.
I have a motion for an amendment to the agenda to add the Jobs Plus grant and say that again.
Interim executive director's Baker's contract. I want to move forward. We need to move forward with that.
And interim executive director Baker's contract. Do we have a second? Can he hear me?
Commissioner Dobson?
Yes,
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
yes.
Okay.
Okay, did you hear the motion?
Hang on. Commissioner Cullen, Madam Vice Chair Bailey, I know that you guys are here. You don't want a second. Either of you want to second Commissioner Dickerson's motion?
As to the contract, we would want to discuss personnel and executive session. Is that correct?
Yes.
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 Yes, I will second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Dickerson to amend the agenda. Item 3 is the Jobs Plus grant. And item 4 is interim director Baker's contract. seconded by Commissioner Cullen. Do we have any further discussion? Okay, hear none. Remember, we got 2 votes. We have to vote on the amendment and then also the agenda as well. So we're voting on the amendments at this point. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 That motion passes unanimously. And to the agenda itself, any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. How about you, Commissioner Cullen?
I was muted. Aye.
Okay, great. That motion passes unanimously. Okay, moving right on. We have discussion items. Number 1 is Brooklyn restroom renovation proposals. Mr. Edward Williams, I believe you are the one presenting this one.
Yes, sir.
Please explain to us what we have before us. And does Commissioner Cullen have this information?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
What you have, commissioners, are 2 different contracts for restroom remodels in Brooklyn Homes. The first contract, that real long one, from the Gordian Group, is for the renovation of 33 restrooms. I've been working with the Gordian Group for probably about 2 months now on getting that one together. So then I started working with HD Supply. They both are in a cooperative purchasing contract for the state, which allows us to use that contract for construction work, specifically when you're in time constraints, because they are supposed to represent great value. Gordian's proposal, you can see the number on that one, and it's for 33 restrooms. Home Depot was able to offer a better price because they own the products, and they own their own equipment, and they own their own storage containers, so they can get a better price. Their proposal came in at even under what Gordian was to do all of the restrooms in Brooklyn Homes. And that's because they own their own equipment. And they got that proposal to me within like a week and a half. It's the last, Home Depot's is the last 2 pages in your packet. And anybody who's been around for a while knows that Brooklyn Homes community, the bathrooms over there are just terrible. And we've always, over the past few years, have been having problems with those, with the tiles coming out the walls in the shower and everything. Well, so what we had, there was some capital funds there that was slated for something else, but this was a more exigent need. So we had the funds reallocated to take care of those bathrooms in Brooklyn Homes, because it's terrible for the residents and it causes damage to the property. And it took her a while to get back with us with those changes, so that's why it's so late into the process. It took probably about a month and a half to get it changed to address this for the residents of Brooklyn Homes. But this is the proposal that has it done. We have the funds available in capital funds to do this project, and I would advise going with HD Supply's proposal, and also adding a NTE clause into it, not to exceed amount on that contract for any problems that may come up. And there are some half baths over there. That's not in that proposal, but I would like to have those done as well. And I think if I put an NTE in there, so that the NTE is not to exceed clause into the contract, so that the contract does not exceed. I want to put an NTE in for $840,000, so that the contract does not exceed $840,000. And if we do not do something with these funds by tomorrow, they expire.
Well, thank you for that one. What do you mean they expired?
These are capital funds, these are capital funds that we had certain items planned for this, because this is capital fund 2019. And we started getting a little bit behind in spending capital funds when COVID hit. Because we couldn't go in units. And then, for whatever reason, once we were able to, no contracts were sought after with these funds. That's the nice way of saying it. But the money could have been spent, but it wasn't. And then after Mr. Baker started working here, we were told to hold off on doing anything with capital funds because there was some other way it was going to be handled, etc. But that didn't happen. So now all of a sudden we've got the capital funds that have to be obligated, which means you have to have a contract. The date is February 22nd for this particular capital fund. So we need a contract in place. And when HUD was here for their review, we were talking about capital funds in general, and we had talked about, I was talking to Erica about revising capital fund years to take what was in your current one, because you have to submit these to HUD before you want to do something. And we had something in the plan, but these bathrooms were far more urgent than that. And some of the mold and mildew issues that we're having everywhere were becoming more prominent. So what we wanted to do is change around what was in a couple of capital funds so that it could address these pressing issues. So that's what Ed was referring to about them taking a while. There was a back and forth, it was a process with HUD. That took a while once it started, once we got in touch with Erica, the right person to talk to get it done. That took a little bit of time. But so that's kind of like the long-winded way of saying, but yes, we do need a contract in place for this ASAP. Part of it is going to be, part of the money can also be used for mold and mildew, which you guys have already approved a contract for that, but this also had the Brooklyn bathrooms in it, and we wanted to get this done. And Gordian Group was working on this thing for a long time to get their estimate together, Fred.
With the approval today, if that is to be the case, can't speak for anyone but myself, when would we expect work to start on this?
Work would probably start once I get back with them and get the contract signed. It'll probably take like a month to get everything in place. I imagine work would start somewhere in May though. Somewhere in May. A month to get everything in place, get stuff ordered so it starts getting there and they get their containers brought in and their storage and everything brought in. Probably month and a half. And HD Supply does this with housing authorities all over the country. Yes, ma'am.
With this serum, who's going to do has the mold and the asbestos testing started with this serum that came out in January? How would that be included in this remodeling, this renovation of these bathrooms?
How would CERN be included in it?
Is anybody doing where are you at with the testing of the asbestos and the mold?
A representative from CERN was actually down yesterday to start his testing.
So they're actually going to do it?
They're doing testing in some of the units. Yes, ma'am.
Because Brooklyn is one of them, some of the units in Brooklyn.
Yes, ma'am. They will be taking their sample
They're doing
testing.
it themselves?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All the units that they have on here?
The way HUD has it designed, you take a sample size. So there's 60, and I'm quoting this almost from memory, so don't
They have
quote me on it. There's 66 units in Brooklyn Homes. HUD says if you have 66 units and you are going to do a sample size of testing, then you would need to test 17 was 4, 17 was all. I think it's 9 units. And that 9 units would be representative of your entire
Right.
number of units there. So yes, you would have to test
So out
about
of those
9 units, and that would be an environmental risk assessment.
right. So if it's a low testing, then they consider all the other ones to be just as low as the one
They
tested.
consider that to represent each unit.
Okay.
Question. You were speaking about the,
But we do already have the test from Brooklyn Home anyway.
Okay.
We have one where the entire property is
So
tested.
we'll see.
For every community that we have those tests already.
So we'll see those results of what they came up with.
I can give them to you today. They out there. They
Yeah.
out there.
Okay.
back to the contract specifically. So the Gordian Group, how many units are they proposing to do in there?
33,
And how many is HD Supply?
66.
Who's doing the other?
I have no further questions.
There's only 66.
Were these done in response to an RFP?
No, sir, you didn't have to have an RFP because it's a cooperative purchasing contract. The solicitation part of it has already been done.
Gotcha. My only problem with the Home Depot is the lack of clarity on the materials that will be used.
That's just the work order form. They will have me a printed out list of materials.
So you want us to sign off on, we don't know exactly what we're getting. I hear you.
Are we they will remain within the budget that we are looking at, that we currently have before us.
Yes, sir.
And it will be the complete, or it will service all of the bathrooms in all of the units at Brooklyn Homes.
Yes, sir. Tubs, tile shower surrounds, and I'm actually working out the minor details with them about which shower surrounds to go with, because I'm in between cultured marble slabs and 18 by 24 tiles, which we have put in some of the bathrooms over there. And Abbott Andrews has cultured marble slabs, which would be less time consuming to install, because we gotta think about it, we're dealing with occupied units. So being able to get it where people can use their bathrooms again immediately. So we are back and forth on that, and this will be tubs, toilets, floors, medicine cabinets, walls will be smoothed out, ceilings will be smoothed out. I think I spec'd everything except for a door. Shower valves, all that will get replaced. And the material list, I need to get the material list. Bob is asking for the basic number. Give me your labor and give me your parts.
So we can spend $160,000 less and get everything done, or we can spend $160,000 more and only get half of it done.
Yes, sir.
When will you have, and Commissioner Collins, I'm trying to work this out in my head. I understand what you're saying about the materials list. So I'm trying to figure out how to make this work for everyone. When will you have the materials list for this project from HD Supply.
Let me call Ryan and I should be able to have it by the end of the day. The actual materials list. I'm certainly have it. Cause they had to put it in to be able to build their numbers. But I told them I didn't want a 20-page thing, just give me the numbers.
The 20-pager would have been great.
What's the detailed line item?
I'll get it for you.
Well, let me ask this, again, how long do you think, you said you could have by the end of the day, can you have it sooner? The question I'm asking is, so that the commissioners can,
Let me reach out to him again and see if I can get him to send it to me now.
and we can, if that's okay with you commissioners, we give him an opportunity to go ahead and get that list, and we can come back to this portion before we finish out, and he can provide us with the list. Is that okay with you commissioners?
Yeah.
That's me. Mr. Chairman, can I just say something briefly?
Yes, sir.
Guys, this is my second month on the board and my 6th meeting. That's weird math. But we're tasked with overseeing the administration of the housing authority. And when y'all put us in situations like this, which I think has happened every single meeting, it feels a lot more like we have a gun against our head than we're actually helping y'all with the administration of the housing authority. I mean, the fact that these dollars are going to run out tomorrow has been known for a long time. The fact that we have I think the Jobs Plus grant is $2.7 million, and we're being told that we have to have another meeting to approve something on it. I mean, the lack of preparation. I know that y'all are overworked, but I mean, it is not easy to make these decisions without information and on the spot. And this is not the way that things are designed to be. This is wild. That's all I have to say about it.
Okay. Can I say something in response? Okay. So I've been here since 2009 and we've never had this issue with capital funds ever until right now. And I was trying to be delicate when I spoke earlier, but the former person who was in charge of these funds sat on a lot of capital funds for quite a while and went out and attempted to get 0 contracts on certain items. So in addition to COVID, that person just fell down on the job. And that's where we were. Then fast forward to July, when we got here, I showed Mr. Baker, I said, look, here's our list of open capital funds, and I gave him all the dates. This is when everything has to be obligated. We've got to do something. And I'm not knocking him, I'm just saying, he said, no. We're going to talk to some people and we're gonna try to get some waivers on this so that we don't have to do this or whatever. So hold off, don't do anything. Okay, so we held off. We didn't touch capital funds, we didn't do anything. So whatever that was did not come to pass. So now, when we can do something, we've got Ed in this position and he's been busting his whatever to get this done, but we had to work with HUD to get the approval to change it to do something that made more sense than what was in the original one when that one was put together probably in 2018. So yeah, it's been a mess, but there's a reason it's been a mess, and it's not been like that the whole time I've been working here. We've been pretty methodical in spending our capital funds and never had to come up. I've never, ever been this close to a deadline for something like this.
I cannot say something.
Just briefly, Mr. Baker.
Well, when, and to, Ms. Dyer's point, when I got here, the condition of these units were, and they still are below substandard. And I asked Ms. Dyer to hold off, let's see if we can get some model units and get HUD to come in and buy in and to help us get a modernization. We can repurpose those funds. HUD did come in initially. They did verbally say, yes, this is what you need to do, get them out and move forward. However, they had some change in that regional office, whatever. It fell through the cracks at that. I went back to Ms. Dyer, probably it's not gonna happen like we want, because the condition on every unit that we have, except for the ones that we have touched, and we have improved upon, those units are not livable. And they have been there for a while. More than they do just didn't come July the 5th. Asbestos just didn't happen July the 5th. It's been going on for a long time. And we had contractors here that was just doing this spraying over cardwell. They sprayed so much that you can't open windows in certain units. So we was trying to do something with the capital fund. That's the reason, Commissioner Collins, we were trying to repurpose them, so we go in and start, as the vacancies came available, we're gonna remodel those units and then move people into those units. I think Commissioner Bailey came up with crafted that idea, and so, which was a great idea. But however, we couldn't repurpose. So that's the reason that we up against the wall on the capital fund, and I take full responsibility for that. We try to do something to provide a livable condition for our residents on the job. Plus, I believe the young lady was here to, our grant writer was here to speak. I don't think that she was able to speak at that time for this deadline. So
We'll go back to Job Plus in a moment.
yes. But anyway, so that's the reason we're up against it, up against the deadline, and so we're working expediently to make sure and to prevent this from moving forward.
Final comments from Madam Vice Chair?
I don't have anything.
You don't have any comments? No. Okay, so is it okay, commissioners? This is, so Mr. Williams is trying to get the materials list. So we'll come back and revisit this one. Is that okay with you, commissioners? It's not a vote, I'm just asking for a yes. Well, it's not. Okay, great. Let's move on to the HUD recovery plan.
Okay, well, so we put together all the documentation for it, and I know you guys said you wanted flash drives, so we do have flash drives available for all the commissioners that has all the documentation to go with it. We also have all the papers here for you all that are in here in person, but I can pull it up on the screen and share it so Commissioner Collins can see it and we go through it if you guys would like to.
Sure.
I don't have anything in front of me.
That's it.
Oh, let's
Okay, got our name on it?
No.
No, that's just one
That's
copy.
one copy.
I didn't know. You guys wanted just digital versions is what was told at the last protocol meeting. So it's all been digitized, but I didn't think you guys would bring in individual laptops or anything, so I can pull it up on the screen. But if you want the
is this
paper version, this is
just one?
no, this is every single.
Yeah, that's
section.
one copy.
This is one response area here.
A one response area.
Yes.
So this will be passed out to.
I'm gonna pull it up on the screen.
We're gonna pull up on
if
the
you wanna. Yeah. But I didn't. So
We didn't make multiple
let's
copies.
just-
That's one
right.
copy.
It's not
So
it's
all
not-
of this is just one single copy.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
as it-
Yes. We've been busy.
Yeah, let's just pull it up on the screen. Let's take a look at it. 'Cause
Okay.
I think
Oh,
that
that
may
might
be
be-
best if we just, and then you guys just kind of go through and we'll do the best we can with it. I'm gonna move around just so that I can see the screen as well. So we've managed, how many pages is this?
Total?
Yeah, roughly.
Upwards of 500. Maybe more.
Are you sure you're sharing your screen with,
Mr. Combs, can you see the screen?
I cannot.
Okay. What about now?
Now I can.
Okay.
Wonderful.
And if you guys want to just go through it, for your sections, Kim?
The first part dealt with the selection from the waiting list. It dealt with the Section 8 section. And what they said was that we did not have it listed as to how we made our selection and did not document it on the actual files. And of course, when I went and talked to the people that were in our admissions office, they sat there and said, yeah, we go ahead and highlight, we take a copy of the wait list, the section from the wait list where their name is, highlight it, and then mark above it why we chose that person over the people in front of it. It's documented in the admin plan to do that, but for some reason, in the 5 last people that were in admissions, some of them were not highlighting at all. Some were highlighting just the person that got chosen with some notes, but not all the notes. So now the admissions people have been told, yes, you will highlight where the person is on the waiting list, and you will put the notes as to what the reasons were that the other people weren't chosen. A lot of times it's a person still searching for a apartment or a house. The other one is that they just haven't come in for their meeting to get their voucher. So there's different reasons. Some just need more information. But from now on, it will be documented. Why it wasn't in the past, I don't know. But like I said, I checked files from people that worked in admissions as far back as when I started working here. And it just had something. So, I mean, that's the corrective action plan. Okay? And there it says that it's in our admissions plan, so it tells you that. The second area that they had questions about for the CMAP is our actual HQS inspections. And in those documents, you have got a listing of the actual, if there's a listing of all the report that shows the inspections that were completed, as well as you will have the actual inspection booklets to show that yes, they were done, when they were done, and what was found on the inspections. So because HUD seems to say that we didn't do the inspections. What we found is that there was a glitch in our computer system, that the inspections after they were done did not get sent to PIC. It was showing up on their 50058s, but it was not actually downloading the inspections into their system.
into whose system?
HUD's, the EIV system.
Okay.
So that has been, Bradley reached out to another company that uses the same computer system as we do. I have not gotten told that it's been tested yet, but from what they've told us, it should work because it's now set up the same way as theirs is, and it's been working. I've got a email to Ms. Shaw as telling her that we've done this. And I will be checking with Ms. Dow afterwards to make sure that it does, once I know that an inspection report's been sent up, I'll make sure with her that it's been done. But we've sent them all the inspections that shows that we've done the inspections.
So the inspections were done on our end of the system, but there was a,
There was a glitch that
Technical
didn't take it to
computer
theirs,
glitch.
but that's the same system we've used since 2007. So why hasn't it been checked since then? I mean, 2007 is when we got the Elite Emphasis system.
so on their end, they hadn't been receiving anything since 2007 is what they're saying?
Not as far as we can tell.
But we had been putting it into the system and,
Like I said, it shows up on the residents 50058s. It shows a box that says the annual inspection's been done, but there's like on their end, it's supposed to go to
on
PIC.
HUD's end.
On HUD's end, it's supposed to go into EIV PIC, and apparently it's not been going there,
Since 2007.
as far as I can tell.
Okay. But we've got that squared away now, or
Yes,
at least
yes.
we're waiting for confirmation.
We're waiting for confirmation, but yes.
Okay.
So the rest of this is just a bunch, like
Of all the
100 plus
inspections.
pages of every inspection that's been done since 2017 up to current date.
Yes.
So those inspections that they have listed on here, have they been done and reported back to them and a follow-up done?
Those inspections, if you slide through, you'll see the inspection report, and they're getting all of these. How to go back and put them into if I'm understanding your question, you're asking, have these been put back in so that we can put them to PIC? I have no idea.
No. Have those inspections been completed?
Yes, yes. And you'll see booklets, you'll see the pages. I don't know how he loaded them in the computer, but you'll see all the letters and you'll see the booklets that show what was found in all of these.
Yeah, I see what was found in all of them, but all the inspections that they have listed there are the ones they picked out have been completed.
Yes,
Okay.
These booklets?
see, there's the booklet.
This is kind of a still segue into the same thing. Do we know if the other housing authorities that we may know of that run our same software, if they were suffering from this same issue?
I do not know.
Do not.
I think as far as, there's always been issues with Elite and how the inspections work based on other housing authorities that me and Bradley have talked to. But most of the time, if it's issues brought to light, then Elite does a pretty good job of correcting it. I think the reason it's at now because we just didn't know it was an issue because,
Never been told.
yeah, I just don't think HUD ever really looked into it. So we wouldn't know when it needs to be fixed if we just normally do our way of doing it, then we assume that it's just being collected because we haven't heard anything saying otherwise up until now.
Because you're saying this is an option that you select when you first get your software and you're installing it, and
Right.
it's something that in the setup of the software itself from day one.
Right,
It
and
was not set up to send that to HUD.
Right, and we didn't know it wasn't being sent there because HUD never said they hadn't received anything up until now. So, and back then, like you said, to 2007 is just a little interesting. And it's like hard to do, but we are working on it. And we will, once we get the solution for it, then moving forward, like Ms. Kim said, it won't be an issue anymore.
Okay. Commissioner Cullors, you got any questions on that thus far?
Nope, I think I'm good on that.
Okay.
Can you tell me what areas after the?
I'm looking at, are we going through
By the book
or by
Whatever
the
order you
report,
wanted
or-
to, I can pull it up. It doesn't-
Didn't we go through some of these, didn't y'all do some of these at our last meeting?
Yes.
So the only ones that we need to go
Okay, I
over
see
are
it
the
now.
ones that
Thank you.
Mr. Baker has to answer himself.
Most of mine were already, you know,
And
we already
that
had the
is
stuff ready.
just this portion.
I mean, is that correct? We did go over the ones
did.
that y'all
A lot.
had
We,
answered.
we did a lot of them.
Yeah.
So y'all skipped the ones he had answered directly. Yeah, okay.
Did we, because I know there were a few of those that had statutes that were cited incorrectly. Did we go through that list as well?
Yeah, cause say that's those two.
Ready for me to go?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go with one of the first statutes that gets cited all throughout it. There's a handbook cite of 74 something, I think 7416. It's not in the handbook. So I went to the handbook's online. And each section, there's not even a section with those first two numbers. In other words, each section has its own, so they add it and they subtract. So there's a particular statute that they use over and over again about procurement that I haven't been able to find it. And so we looked way back to documents going 10 years back, still didn't see anything corresponding to that particular. So that's unto itself.
Repeat that statute again.
It's the handbook statute 7416. It's the only one that they cite to as a handbook statute
Can
from
we
the HUD
see,
handbook.
can we see it on here?
Yeah,
The citation?
what's the,
Go to their original report or our
Kim's
response.
scrolling through this one looking for it.
Okay, hold on. It's over and over again. It's a bunch of different times.
And so I can understand what we're
It's on
saying
page
there.
17 of the
It's
report.
on page 7.
But it's throughout the report.
And so I can understand as we're
It's
going through
already-
this.
2 pages? Go ahead.
Y'all finished?
No, you go ahead.
As we're going through this, I can understand that there's a government agency that we are saying that run this agency, it's over at HUD,
Correct.
that put up wrong citations.
Correct.
That's what we're saying.
Correct.
Okay, I want to make sure I was clear on that.
But I wanted to start off with the one that's not just wrong. I don't see it.
You don't even see it. It's not even in existence.
The HUD
So it's
handbook-
made up. That's what we're saying.
We're not saying that. The thought process is it's an old citation that's been carried forward that's probably not good. I went back 10 years. I just couldn't find it. The only thing I can tell you is, look at the HUD handbook, that citation is not there.
Okay.
Definitely not in the present one. And anybody can pull it up online to see. You know, it's not like it's a public records document.
And what citation is it?
The one, can you read it out aloud, Kim, again? Ms. Kim? Can you read it out aloud one more time?
HUD handbook 7460.810.
7460
Dot.
10.
810.
810.
And that's the one that deals with procurement.
That's part of it. But I want to get to the other one. I just want to start off with that one.
Okay.
That I didn't sign.
I just want to be clear as we're going through it. That's all.
Right. No, so I wanted to go with that one because that was the one, just don't see it. But anyway,
Just a brief, and I apologize, commissioners, I had to step out and speak to Mr. Williams. Commissioner Cullins? You may be on mute, Commissioner Cullins.
I am on mute. I'm muted.
No problem, sir. Just real quick, apparently the email that Mr. Williams sent you over about the bathrooms, in the tabs of the spreadsheet, you actually already have the materials list, and we are getting that printed for the rest of the board now, but we'll come back to that after this part, but just wanted to inform you of that. He said apparently you already have it, but if you can just double check, to make sure that you have that material list. It's in a spreadsheet as part of the tabs, is what he tells me. And, well, hang on, you don't have to, I don't want you to change anything. But just let us know if you have that. If not, let us know so we can make sure that you have that information when we go back to the bathroom renovations. Okay, sir?
I don't see it, so if we can, if y'all will resend it, that'd be awesome.
Will do. All right, continuing on.
sure. So I just want to start off with the one that absolutely don't see it at all. Okay. So then let's go back. Going back, let's start off with the Gwen Williams issue. So that was the first thing about the contract
that he had, they said it was an illicit contract. Number one, it was actually a micro purchase contract, starting off initially, which is at a smaller level. But even if she was a contracted employee who received the value, because that's what they were saying, that doesn't necessarily push her into procurement, because she is an active employee. As an active employee, we can also just treat it as supplemental income. We didn't. We listed it as a contractor, so I'm not trying to deceive you about that. We did, but she doesn't have to move under those particular statutes. But even if she did, under the notion of her as originally as a micro purchase, she wouldn't be under the same scrutiny because she started off as an under $10,000 contract. But they're saying it exceeded that value. But even if it exceeded that value as a supplemental income, you still wouldn't have to post. Any questions about it?
The real issue regarding Area 15 was an alleged conflict of interest, which is covered under 24 CFR 85.36B. And as you can see, that wouldn't fit. In other words, Mr. Baker is not a family member of Gwen Williams, not a partner of Gwen Williams, wasn't an employee of Gwen Williams, wasn't part of an organization which employed Gwen Williams at the time. He was not beholden to her, therefore no conflict of interest could possibly exist under the rig.
And so that's going to be really important because you're going to see the same rig show up over and over and over and over again.
And it simply doesn't apply.
Doesn't apply. For
Okay,
instance,
can you say that again? Why does it not apply?
well, let's stop. Is he related to Gwen Williams? No.
No, start with I.
All right, let's start with.
Was he an employee of Gwen Williams? No, he was not. Number two, is he an immediate family member of Gwen Williams? No. Is he a partner of Gwen Williams? No. Is he part of an organization which employs or is about to employ any of the above? And the answer is no. In other words, he's not about to employ any of Gwen Williams' family members or a partner of Gwen Williams' family members or some co-employee of Gwen Williams' business, because we're talking about an independent contract.
Right. If we treat it
So
as
none of those would apply.
right.
There's no conflict of interest between him
And
and Gwen Williams.
He met Gwen Williams when he got
He
here.
didn't know her from Jack Allen.
Yeah.
How long had Miss Williams had the cleaning contract?
Before he got here.
2021.
September.
Different terms, but yes.
December 2020.
There was no contract though. It was verbal.
Yeah, and she wouldn't have to under a micro anyway. But I'm just addressing the statute. It doesn't apply. Any questions about that?
And you're saying.
I don't, some of these things, the way they're being answered. is
But then I go back to this
Wait
one.
a minute, let me finish.
Okay.
What I'm just saying is, it's kind of gonna be kind of hard because how y'all defending what HUD is asking, HUD is not here to defend why they put that statute there.
True.
You're only defending what you know. So HUD is not here to say why they put that particular piece in there. So we don't understand it, cause
No, they did.
but I'm sure they wouldn't have put it in there just to be putting it in there. Because no one knew that Gwen Williams was working in finance. We only knew her to be working as cleaning the offices or whatever. So we have to understand why HUD put that piece in there. Regardless what he's saying is his part, but what were they thinking and what was their reason for them to put that up there?
Well, that's what they did. They put it in there saying that it was a conflict of interest with her contract specifically.
They're
They've
saying
already
that because
stated
she's
that.
getting 2 checks, not because she's related to anybody.
But that's
the-
what they cited specifically. This is our rebuttal to them making allegations that making allegations. So, and I understand where you're going, that this is HUD is supposed to have their part, but this is HUD saying these are the allegations against the housing authority. This is the statute that they're claiming that we have violated, and then these will be our responses back to them specifically.
But they're giving you examples of which one she could fit underneath, an employee, officer, or agent, or is she any immediate family member, or is she a partner of, or an organization which employs or is about to employ any of the above. So she's not gonna go under 2, she's gonna go underneath 1, or she could go underneath 4. Because we're paying her.
No.
Then we give her, listen,
Hang
we
on,
pay
hang
her
on.
for
If we're-
cleaning.
If we're looking at this,
We pay her.
is she, so the BHA is the participating officer, right? Am I correct in that assumption?
Correct.
And so is she an employee, officer, or agent of?
The Brunswick Housing Authority.
No.
The person who's making the decision to contract with her.
Right there he is, right there.
Yeah,
So,
but
Mr.
listen,
Baker's a participant officer.
No.
Point of information,
No, me too.
Mr. Chair, point of information.
Yes, sir.
I thought we was gonna discuss them explaining why these accusations are coming, not to go back and forth on who's right and who's wrong. I don't care if HUD was here or not. This is the accusation. We need to hear the report on what they're saying.
Well,
And then we just need to move forward. I'm not gonna be here all day. I'm telling y'all that right now. So we need to hear y'all, we need to hear your report, and that's period. And let's move forward. And then we can have our discussion afterwards. We're not gonna keep challenging what people say. That's point of order. So
Thank
let's
you
move
for
forward.
that. Thank you for that, Commissioner Dickerson. Commissioner Collins, you got any questions or comments about?
No, we
this
need to have
section?
discussion and questions afterwards.
Hang on,
That's the pattern, that's why I've been here all
what
day.
you mean?
hang on. Commissioner Collins?
Write y'all questions down and ask them after it's done.
Mr. Chairman, do we need to, are we gonna be responsible for approving this response? Or does this fall squarely with the interim executive director and staff?
I believe the board has to give approval as to the response.
Yeah.
And that, what's our deadline on this that has to be submitted?
24.
No, it's
Point of information, again, let's hear what the reports are, what y'all have found, and then we make our decision based upon that.
Okay.
Whether we believe HUD or believe what they said, let's move forward. It's not going back and forth. We'll be here all day.
We will be here all day.
Let me say this.
Hang on. We understand, again, Commissioner Collins, I'm saying that because you're via electronic communications. So I think Commissioner Dickerson does have a great point there. Go ahead and let the staff go through and see.
I'll get to that. That's great.
Okay, so that's what we're gonna move to now.
Let me-
Staff continue on with the report
Let me
at
make,
this point.
let me make, inform, one point of information. We did send a request for an extension for this very thing because this is such a detail. We both are prepared to submit this report on the 23rd if we don't get that by today.
Okay, let's continue on.
So that's the issue with that, and the reason why that one's important in terms of that explanation, you're gonna be able to see it again, coming up again. Ronnie Cooper, conflict of interest. It's the exact same issue. Was he employed by or with Ronnie Cooper? Is William Baker a family member of Ronnie Cooper? Was he ever a partner of Ronnie Cooper? Does he have a relationship with an organization controlled by Ronnie Cooper? The answer is no.
We know he's not related to Ronnie Cooper, but we know Ronnie Cooper is related to Joyce Cooper. So that's nepotism right there.
No, the participating officer.
Listen.
Hang on,
Listen,
hang on,
listen.
hang on, Madam Vice Chair. Again, that's just a conversation that we just had. So let them go ahead and finish, and then we can come back in and go through this process.
The sub-issue that she brings up, which is a good one, is whether or not Joyce Cooper was a participating officer in the acquisition of Ronnie Cooper as a contract. She was not. There were 2 direct hires that came through. Ronnie Cooper was one of them, and the other one was Vince Williams, which he was the direct participant in those hires. Joyce had nothing to do with that hire. There's not one document that suggests she was involved in it at all. So I'll go on to the next one. KBK. They went back to a Marshall Plan for Economic Recovery of Black America. It's a white paper. Now, the reason why I can speak to this one is I was one of the main authors of this particular white paper. When I looked at the title, I didn't even remember it because I've written so many white papers over my lifetime. And it might help if there's a question about what a white paper means. Does anybody in here have a question about that? I'm talking about the issues. Everybody's familiar with it. Okay. So it's a white paper. Therefore, if it's a white paper, and that's what they're basing on it, and that's what they said, that the white paper is the reason for the conflict, a white paper is not an organization, it's not anything you invest in, there was no money changing hands based upon a white paper, he's not an employee, he's not a family member of him, he's not a partner in him because there's no partnership. My name is on the document as one of the prime authors, and he's not a part of an organization related to that particular entity. It's not an entity, it's a paper that was written. It's not an organization, there's no form document, there's no articles of organization, there's nothing, it's just a white paper. So, scroll down. Brooks Legal Firm comes back to the same white paper of which I was one of the main authors. Once again, it's the exact same response. That's not anything that fits under that at all. And they cite that as the factual reason for the conflict. So I want to make sure we're clear. The reason why they're saying in those 2 instances that there is a conflict is because of the white paper, and they cite the white paper as the factual reason to support that statute. It does not, because there's no entity. Scroll down. Multiple contracts for similar services. Brooks Jeffries contract to design the website. Emphasis has been for years the software vendor. So here's the thing. They've conflated someone who would handle social media with a software vendor. Software and the person who creates social media are 2 different things. There's a big difference between, Apple and Squarespace. Okay? One is a software vendor, one makes websites for people. It's not remotely the same function in any stretch of the imagination.
Okay, can I jump in here?
Please.
Like on this, because, I had my own document where I had covered all the items that were mine. And that one I took as mine since they were both vendors and we made payments to them. It's true that one is a software vendor and one is the website. But on this comment, on this area, and basically all throughout this report, if you read the report, that they describe what their problem is with you, and then they tell you what your corrective action is. So on every one of these, like what I've done is like I've put what our corrective action is on these. So I think that's what HUD's looking for. So when I do my response to Brooks Jeffries and website, that's part of what I wrote, but I've also got whatever their corrective action is, I'll either say attached, and I've got attachments behind it, or I will say will do, or have done, or, something like that. Board will approve that, just some comment or whatever, because I know when HUD gets this report, whatever they've got listed on here as whatever our corrective action is, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for our response to what they say the corrective action is.
On part 20, that's just a recap, actually. I'm glad Sharon just spoke, because that's a recap of what she talked about in terms of our responses to it. It just fits under previously written information about the payment and the issues in terms of those particular entities. You've actually already covered it. It was considered a separate item, but it's already been covered in your previous, when you spoke to Sharon about what was going on with this contract. See, we'll move on to the next one. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's what you're just speaking on, is this GM?
That's just another example of it. That's part of what I wrote on there. But yeah, when they were talking about They had, multiple contracts for similar service management.
So that's what I want to talk about. So a lot of the people that came with KBK, and it's on the residential.
Okay, that's right. I'm sorry, I'm listening, Commissioner. I just wanted to see what you were talking about.
One of the things that is complicated is how the organizations that came into here in July, and all of them are connected together. And most of you all are on the staff or officer of those organizations. On the residential flyer, Brad Buckner works for KBK. Are we paying him individually, or are we paying him underneath KBK? Wait a minute.
KBK, it's going under KBK, but let me say this, anytime someone comes into a new organization, you bring your own transitional team. You bring people that you know who can get the job done.
Hang on, Mr. Baker. Madam Vice Chair, and I understand where you're going with that. Can you go ahead and jot that down so that once they get through this,
Okay.
otherwise we're gonna be here all day if we
That's
go
fine.
back and forth on every single.
That's fine.
on every single thing.
That's fine.
Yeah, so I was just looking at the contractors that Vegas, I'm talking about, HUD, Ephraim Group, DBS Management, and KBK. So I don't think it was named in that way, but let's scroll down to number 21. Multiple contracts for security services.
Yeah.
I said that. That number 21 is security services. That's a really weird decision on their part, but let's just go to what it's about. That would mean that HUD would be able to limit how many contracts you could have under KPAC. That's not statutorily supported at all. You could hire 2, 3, 4, 5, but also the whole notion was to bring as much security into play as possible. And the notion that the city of Brunswick is the same as an internal hire is just, it's simply not true. So, I mean, really, in terms of the multiplicity of contracts, but right now, we don't even have that position that they're saying holds the conflict. And what happened was, after the issue of leaving the chief of security, I'm just giving you for edification, that we were trying to expand the KPAC program, which it's very hard to identify anybody to bring in. In other words, it's hard to get a part-time police officer. That's what I'm saying. He's fully certified. So that's part of the issue. Multiple contracts for legal services. I mean, you can just go through. The first one is the investigator for what happened with things that, you know, I think y'all covered that stuff in private sessions, and we don't get into about public areas. The Brooks Law Firm, it's internal policy created, and those are issues, and they're listed out what they are in terms of the statement and what happens. They said that 2 MacBook Pros were given to the Brooks Law Firm. That's not true. 2 were purchased. Brunswick owns them. Brunswick never gave anything to the Brooks Law Firm, just being used. Hunter McLean serves as reserve counsel, has for a very long time. The issue I think that they had was that they clustered all payments over all time for Hunter McLean, however long they went back, trying to push it all together. So, you know, the things that's covered, so I'm covering this, are listed out, the things that he does. Those things no other law firm does. So in other words, nobody did what Bowman did. Nobody does what we did. Nobody does what Hunter McLean does. It's completely separate functions that are very specifically named, scrolling down, and it's listed out. Go up just a little bit, thank you. Visa used this firm for several issues over the years, and that's separate litigation firm. You actually had a letter, I think it was December 21st, that came in asking about how you handle litigation directly from Kenner, and that was responded back to at that point in time about how the statute works and how those acquisitions work. Improper procurement.
That's Sharon's.
Okay.
That's Sharon's.
Well, I didn't cover most of what was under that, though. I only covered the actual payment, but not all the, you know, on the very end of the report where they questioned basically every clause in the contract.
Right, so
I didn't address any of that.
Right, so I sent out an email just this morning. That one of the citations that they cited was about the fact that the structure of the contract was not consistent with the structures that you're used to. Under the particular statute that they cited, 200, I want to say it's 459, I mean, I don't know it right off the top of my head, but I sent it as an email to be added in. That particular statute actually says the exact opposite. The question is, what's the functionality of what you're doing? For instance, if you incorporate what somebody's doing in terms of the insurance and you say, make your payment insurance directly, you can't do that as subterfuge to do something else. You can't be trying to cover up something as a board that you're trying to get to them, so you run it through a contract in another way. But if you're doing it because you're functionally addressing it, then you can. In other words, when you wanted to take care of the insurance issue because he wasn't a direct hire, you turned it into a cash payment and you just pushed it off to him. You're perfectly allowed to do that as long as you explain why, which you did during the time. So part of it is some of these payments that they're talking about, especially in terms of travel, and that's going to come up again with the Brooks Law Firm, where they're just absolutely incorrect because Sharon came back and took that money back from us. That's back. I can tell you that one. So that goes back to what we were talking about before in terms of how they were looking at what the things were and what the acquisitions being done. And it's a list out of everything that's been acquired, the millions of dollars. In other words, you got these multiple grant entities, how did it help you? Well, it created millions of dollars coming back into this agency, which we now have. Scrolling down.
This is the last one.
That's it. Any questions for me?
All the other ones already got discussed during the last special call.
So the one that's not up there, but I said this morning, right before this meeting started, is the one about that statute, which specifically says you don't have to structure everything one way. You can use bits, however you want to do it.
Come on, this one?
Is that what I said to you? Yeah, I think that's it.
So,
Let me go right.
Are you making sure that you're sharing that with Commissioner Collins?
Yes, sir.
So that's 2 CFR 200-459. And if you look under section B, which will be the violation that they're talking about, you meet the requirements of section B under 1, 2, 6, and 8 in terms of how the commission conducted itself when it decided what the payment streams would be. You understand what I'm saying? Because the issue is,
Can you read that to us just so we
sure, because it's too tiny.
It is really.
Sorry about that. In determining the allowability of cost, in a particular case, no single factor or any special combination of factors is necessarily determinative. However, the following factors are relevant. It's actually 8. But the ones that are salient for what we're doing, the nature and scope of the service rendered in relation to the services required. In other words, what were you trying to address? You were trying to get an interim executive director. The necessity of contracting for service considering the non-federal entity's capability in a particular issue. Did you go through a process to determine this particular entity, which is actually him through his contracting Vertical Horizons, able to perform the function that you needed, that you wanted? Number 6, whether the services can be performed more economically by direct employment rather than contracting. You actually went through that, because I know that I was here, about whether or not you wanted to do him as have him as a hired-in employee, or whether or not you want to do him as a contracting employee. You contracted the employee through the individual. Section 8, adequacy of the contractual agreement for the service rendered. In other words, was it really something where you were trying to give extra compensation because they go into the payment streams that he received, and were you trying to do something unseen? You accounted for every payment stream based upon what it would have been had he been a direct hire as a human being. Does that make sense? I'm sorry. So when you debated whether or not you were going to hire him, you decided what the payment streams were about. In other words, we're going to pay him as an employee. He's not going to get insurance from us. He's responsible for his own. We're going to pay for that. There'll be streams that y'all decided when you were making the decision to acquire him, and that's allowed under the statute.
Oh, okay. So because if he came in as an official employee, of course, then he came in under our insurance.
Correct.
And he was, but he didn't come in under our insurance because even at the 6-month period, would he be eligible during that time period for insurance?
As a contractor?
No,
Or
as an employee.
I think we offer insurance now, don't we?
We
And
do.
upon hire.
At the
Yeah.
time, though, it was not.
Yeah. I
You didn't
don't, I
offer
don't,
that.
I don't remember,
3
it's
months.
been too long.
At 3 months we did.
Okay, so going out and basically paying him for his COBRA
Correct.
insurance that we were discussing at the time was the proper way to do it. Because
Correct.
he was not employed and on our insurance,
Correct.
and that was his COBRA cost portion,
Correct.
and that's where,
Don't tell them.
so that's,
Too excited. It's not
according
that
to
great.
this, that's okay.
Yes, according to that statute, if you're making the payments, you just can't do it for some reason that's obscene. You understand what I'm saying? You can't say, we're gonna pay him $100,000 extra for insurance. There's no insurance that costs that.
Yeah.
That makes no sense. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it has to be related to whatever your discussions were in the moment. I know they were, because that's how y'all were negotiating it at the time. Yeah, I mean, it's on the record, y'all did it all. Y'all discussed it at the time of him coming in.
What else you got?
That's it? That's it?
That's all of it for the whole report? I mean, other than these massive mounds of paper? You got some questions, Madam Vice Chair? Let's go.
Yeah, I do. You sound so political. So when you talk about the way the payments are streamed, does that have anything to do with how they had him, where we were paying Vertical Horizon as a different entity and then paying William Baker underneath another amount? Because Vertical Horizon got more income when William Baker got income on the pay thing. And then we did not discuss the visa, of him spending the visa, where they said underneath vendors, he didn't have where he spent that money at, he signed his name. So we didn't go over that either. So I don't know if y'all pick and choose what we were gonna talk about this morning, but a lot of those things in that HUD report is longer than what was up on this PowerPoint.
All contracting fees were paid to Vertical Horizons. Anything that was paid to Mr. Baker personally would have been when he used his personal credit card to get reimbursed for a business meal or something of that sort to meet with, you know, somebody in the community or whatever. That would be a payment to William Baker. But all the contracting payments went to Vertical Horizons. And
You
as-
didn't speak of that the other day. Okay,
And the visa I've got included with that, with the report, I've got like a listing of every charge on the visa from like July through October. And what it was for, and where it was charged, and whether I, at first glance, thought about it a second time and said, oh, maybe that should be charged to a different department or whatever. I've got all those notes in what HUD is receiving. So, if you want to see that, it's in that paperwork. But there was nothing that, I don't understand what you were saying about Mr. Baker and the visa exactly, but
in the report, because we all seen the report together.
Yeah.
And you said that the vending listing, what you have on your side is different because you said you can't see everything. And so where they had on the report that underneath vending listing, they had his name and not what he actually purchased.
Okay, I know what
Yeah.
you're talking about. They asked me for a vendor listing when they came here, and I did not know what they wanted it for. I just thought they wanted to see a list of vendors. I don't even look at that report myself, but I didn't notice it when I gave it to them. It's got a dollar amount off to the side. That vendor listing shows everything we have paid to a particular vendor since we added them to our system. So that's why, like with Hunter McLean, you know, the number is like $900 and something thousand. They're looking, HUD, when they were here, they were reviewing July through October or whatever it was, in the middle of November. So they're looking at the details of that little short period of time. But then when they look at the vendor listing, if it's a vendor we've had for a while, it's gonna have this completely different number, you know, way more, most likely, than what the little bit of time that they're looking at.
I think what they were looking for was an actual company or person where he spent it at. Like if you went to Longhorns, da 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 da. I mean, that's how you
Oh,
would
and
do it when you pay.
that's what's on, if he went, like, okay, say Mr. Baker went to Longhorns or whatever. If he, with the company Visa, when you gave me the receipt back, you'll write on there where they went. Well, obviously you can see where they went, but who went with them and what was the purpose. And that's what's on my spreadsheet that I'm sending back to HUD.
Oh, okay, because that's what they were
Yeah.
asking for.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously when it goes in, when we see it in the software, it's just gonna say Visa. Cause you can't put all those details in. The vendor is Visa and that's, it's for this many things. But yeah, all the details of what each charge on that card is for in detail.
So what about the amounts of monies that they said is not allocated for? Like the fact of the, what they say, it was something on there that money was spent and they said it was an additional amount of money that they did not know where it was coming from.
There was a general comment on some of them, and they were looking, it was Catherine Bowman, I think, was one of them. Feel like so far this year, we've spent this much on Catherine Bowman. And they had the details of that because I gave them the details because it was something that happened in this fiscal year. And then they made a comment on there saying, we don't know whether the rest of that money needs to be reclassified because we don't know what it was for, because they're looking at the vendor listing, which had a $25,000 on there compared to $2,500 or whatever. So what they're saying is, you didn't give us those details, well, because y'all are only looking at July. So basically, I just, in the thing going back to HUD, I've made copies of everything that we paid to Catherine Bowman. So they can see everything. So when they said they didn't see the details, it's because something happened prior to July this year, or 2022. But in the response, they have all that detail.
I'm sorry, Vice Chair. One quick question. Is that normal for HUD to focus on one specific time period when they come in and do?
Usually we've only
I'm
had
only
one
trying to
other
figure
HUD
out
review.
because some of the stuff happened before July. Why they didn't ask for the reports before then? Is that normal?
I don't know what's normal. When they came the last time there was a HUD review, it was in 2017. It was a brief overview of everything. It covered more areas. Well, not really, but they didn't delve into a lot of details on my side. It was more tenant files and and with the charges and stuff like that, it was more like a housing side of it than actual details of what I do.
You answered my question. Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Vice Chair, I'm sorry.
I was finished.
There's no more questions? Commissioner Cullins, do you have any additional questions about the report?
Oh, I got all kinds of questions.
Okay, let's fire off, rapid fire, let's go.
Mr. Brooks, can you just take us through that conflict of interest analysis that you did just one more time?
Can you pull it back up?
Just one second. Sorry, I have to. I'll be right now.
Who's one is there? Yes, sir?
Yep. And just why you believe that there is no conflict of interest that relates to any of these alleged conflicts of interest.
Sure. In terms of Glenn Williams, the Brooks firm, Ronnie Cooper, and KBK, they cite to the exact same statute, 85.36. And 85.36B states what it is that's the conflict. I know I'm jumping to two, but that's the easiest one to get rid of. We know he's not related to any of these people, including myself. What? Let's move this while you're with it. Yeah, I am. A little lie too. Any immediate family member. So we know that's not the truth. that's not accurate. A partner of, he's not a partner in a law firm, as you know as a lawyer, that's not even possible. And he's not a partner of KBK, and he's not a partner of anything with Glenn Williams or Ronnie Cooper. An employee, officer, or agent, he doesn't have that, and that's an I. So I think we can safely say on all the ones citing this, 1, 2, and 3 aren't even remotely possible. 4, an organization which employs or is about to employ any of the above. As far as we know, he is not employing or about to employ any family member, any friend, any association, has any relationship with Gwen Williams, Ronnie Cooper, Charles Brooks, Iko Brooks, or Keegan Kimball.
You said who doesn't have a relationship?
William Becker,
Doesn't have a relationship with who?
everybody just listed.
KBK, Kevin Kimball?
He's
and
not
all them?
related to him.
He's not related to them. He has a working partner with him.
He has a partnership with him.
Yeah, to his company.
Oh, I didn't
know that.
I never heard that
I never
before.
heard that either.
Well,
I've never seen a document that says he has a partnership with him. He definitely doesn't have one with me. And the HUD cited the Marshall Plan. That's a white paper. As I said, we all know what a white paper is.
KBK just updated their website.
Mhm.
When he first worked here, he was on there as an officer or a staff member and a founder
He's right
of
here.
Vertical Horizon.
We can go get him.
He's here.
The guy from DC is on the other side.
Listen, but see, that's what you do all the time. Listen, we not doing all of that. We don't want to
Nobody
keep
wanna-
all
we not
that.
gonna make
But
that
listen,
The question's for me.
but listen. FSIC,
Can we have documents showing this?
So this partnership-
The relationship itself not have a partnership, and it's not true.
Can we have documents showing that that's not true?
So, just to be clear, you're not saying he has a partnership with Gwen Williams. You're not saying he has a partnership with Ronald Cooper.
no,
You're not saying he has a partnership with Charles Brooks or Iko Brooks.
y'all know each other prior to working here.
Okay. Are you saying there's a
Y'all work
partnership?
together.
Are you saying there's a partnership?
I don't know what y'all do together, but y'all came in together as a buddy thing, or buddy system. Y'all came in together knowing each other prior to be hired to go into the housing authority.
So the only partnership you're talking about is with Keegan Kimball.
FSIC, that's on the resident flyer, FSIC, that's on the resident flyer that's giving to come with Brad, that Buckner guy. He's on that.
All right, Commissioner Cullen, I guess we got another person coming in. Any other questions for me? Commissioner Cullen? Hello?
Yeah, how did we get to the conclusion that this only relates to Mr. Baker and not to the BHA?
Participating. It has to be the participating officer.
Per statute.
I understand that, but why is it only in relation to Mr. Baker and not all of the officers or, yeah.
Well, actually,
There are
yeah.
people with housing authority than just Mr. Baker.
Right. And you can apply that same analysis, I can confidently say, for the Brooks firm and KBK with anybody else. The first time we met any of these people, if you're talking about the relationship between Joyce Cooper and Ronnie Cooper, she wasn't a participating officer in that relationship. So, in the decision to hire him on. In other words, it has to be who participated in it.
She introduced him to Mr. Baker.
She introduced him to her
Yeah,
husband. that's
as
for sure.
her husband. Yes, she introduced him and told Mr. Baker what his former job was and what he has done in security.
Okay. Keegan Kimball just walked in. Keegan Kimball, the salient question is, do you have a partnership with William Becker?
No, in terms of what we know each other, he's been a good resource for us, but we don't have a relationship.
Right, and
He doesn't work for me, he doesn't.
Yeah, the commissioner was saying that y'all were partners in physics.
He's not a part of physics.
Okay.
I mean, no more than you're a part of physics.
Right. I'm not.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's not on the board, he's not on the advisory board, he's not on staff. He's not on
Did you recently just update your website?
my physical website.
Yeah, KBK Consultant in Washington DC. Did you just recently update it?
Possibly, maybe a couple months ago.
That's a yes or no question.
I mean, I don't update my personally. So what are you saying?
Because it was recently updated since about a week ago, and the only person that you show on there is, I don't know the man's name by heart.
Brady?
But
No,
before,
but Leroy Jones
Leroy,
pilot.
yes.
Mhm.
But before, you had a whole listing of people you knew, and Mr. Baker was one of them. Every company, CPI, FSIC, that's on the resident initial thing that we already have for the residents, you're on it, you're over all of them, and he's part of it.
So maybe I can clear this up for you. I'll do my best I can.
Mhm.
We have an economic empowerment platform that encompasses several think tanks that work on different issues from financial services to economic inclusion to civil rights. We have partners all over the country. I mean, there have been people who affiliate with us for whatever reason because they want to see improvement to the lives of people. Mr. Baker, in my experience, has been someone who cares about kids and uplifting people. So he's come to our events. He's helped us organize events, but he's not a part of it. Just like there's state reps in Tennessee who've done the same thing for us. There are mayors from cities in North Carolina who've done the same thing for us. So I'm not sure if you understand what the nature of affiliation or partnership. So he's not it didn't work for me.
So, listen, I did not know that we were gonna come in today and do this, but I have the pictures that he's listed under FSIC. You're over CPI and over FSIC, and he's a member underneath it. I have it in my email, I have it. I may not can find it now, but when I go home, I can submit it. Y'all knew each other prior to coming to Brunswick Housing Authority and have worked together, yes.
I know members of Congress. I mean, I know lots of people, so I have lots of relationships. I don't understand. I've had members of Congress who weren't members of Congress who spoke on my board.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Sorry. But anyway, Commissioner Cullen, I've known a lot of people. I've met a lot of people. I've met a couple of presidents, both Republican and Democrat in this country. That doesn't mean I'm affiliated with them in any way. So, hey, that's just, I don't know if does that answer your question? I'm sorry. Commissioner Collins? Hello?
Yeah, I think I got an answer in there.
I'm sorry, it was kind of convoluted.
Yeah, you have answered what your perspective on that is.
Yes, sir.
So thank you.
Yes, sir.
Can I add just a little bit to that there, just for a point of view? And again, I'll just say that as being a glutton for punishment, again, Madam Vice Chair, myself, and Commissioner Dickerson also serve on the city's audit committee. And all three of us are also MPA chairs, and we were those before we came to the Housing Authority. So technically, the three of us know each other prior to coming to the Housing Authority.
Okay.
So I guess this was set up that we be on a housing authority then. I guess this was set up.
Not the same thing.
It can be said though.
Not the
It
same
can be
thing.
said now.
That's the point I'm making is
Now
that
that it come out, it can be
That's the
said
point I'm
now.
making is that we've all known each other. The three of us have all known each other for. I've been in Brunswick almost a decade, or I think a decade now, and I've known the two of you for the greater part of that. And
You just know me since I've been been out in the community.
I'm from the audit committee, so that's 6 years. This is it's your second term, going into your third now on the audit committee. So, I mean, just that's the way I take on it is, I mean, you know, everyone knows someone in some way, shape, or fashion. But I'll end it with that one. Go ahead, Commissioner Collins. I believe you have some more questions.
Oh, I'm an inquisitive person. I can go all day, but I'll spare everyone that questioning. But I think I've heard what I need to.
Thank you, Commissioner. that it?
Madam Vice Chair, you have any more questions about the report that you want to go through more of this? All right, what's the ask from staff?
We ask that the board approve our rebuttal to the HUD review, and that we submit it as reported to you all.
Ms. Dyer.
Rebuttal/response.
Response.
I'm just responding to most of mine, not
I'm sorry.
I'm not.
Response.
saying that they're wrong in every instance.
Okay. Commissioners, what is your pleasure?
My pleasure is that we respond. I mean, we have to respond.
Just one minute, just want to make sure you know that I believe on one website, William Baker was listed as a point of light for physics. I don't know if that has any legal.
We're past that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're past that. Thank
Sure
you,
you
but
knew.
we're past that. Is that a motion?
Yeah, let's motion to move forward with a response to her. Because I think we need to be ready for deadline. A response to her. Right? I don't want to discuss. I'd like to make motion.
Thank you.
That we give staff the responsibility to respond to HUD's accusations.
As presented.
As presented.
Do we have a second? Is Dobson still on the line? Okay, Dobson is still on the line. Still need so we have a motion from Commissioner Dickerson to prove and give staff the ability to respond and submit the response to HUD. That's the motion on the floor. Do we have a second? Do we have a second going once? Do we have a second going twice? Do we have a second going thrice? That motion failed. Would anyone else like to make a motion so we can actually get this report to HUD? If we do not give this report, this response to HUD, then we are in a world of crap. What would the commissioners like to do?
Again, I would like to make a motion that we have staff respond to HUD concerning this report. This is going to be shown to the public, right?
I have a motion by Commissioner Dickerson.
I was telling him that I second the motion.
I have a motion by Commissioner Dickerson. Once again, once again, what?
He seconded, y'all can't hear him.
Well, I'm sorry, I already been through that process, so I have to go through it again just for procedural purposes. So again, I have a motion on the floor to again approve and allow staff to respond to the HUD report by Commissioner Dickerson. Do we have a second?
A second.
I have a second by Commissioner Dobson. Commissioner Cullen, can you hear us just fine?
I can hear you just
Yeah, he
fine.
can hear.
Okay. Do we have any further discussion?
The references that are made in the response, calling out bad citations to the CF bar and calling out, form over substance. I mean, yeah, maybe y'all responded with more bill reports than I have, but I think telling them that they're wrong because X, Y, and Z instead of coming hand in hand and maybe characterizing it as a mischaracterization or a misunderstanding. I think the responses that Pope and Bear there are just going to bring in God of what is going on. So that's all I have to say about it. And I do think that the analysis of the conflict of interest is lopsided and self-serving in some instances. So, I don't think that that's a good analysis that is whatsoever.
Noted. Will you provide to staff those recommendations? Do you want that to be a part of this?
I will share my thoughts with VHA staff.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hear none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed have the same.
Nay.
That motion passes 3-2. Commissioner, do you want to go ahead and, before I go further, did you get the spreadsheet, Commissioner Cullen, that Mr. Williams sent for the materials list for the HD supply?
Bear with me just briefly.
And then, once we get an answer from that, do you want to proceed to the Jobs Plus, or do you want to go back to the HD supply?
Get that out the way. That was the first one, right? Because it's already going on 11 o'clock.
I can share it. I can play it.
Yeah, we can go back to the HD spot or with the, I think I've got it.
Okay, and you said you could put the materials list up on the screen. All right, so if you guys don't mind, let's go ahead and go back to the HD supply again. There were 2 contracts there.
See that third tab? You see in the bottom is 3 tabs.
Bathroom rehab?
Yeah, the first one is the contract, the second one is terms and conditions, the third one is your parts list, and that's what you're looking at, the parts list. That's the breakdown for one unit. All of the bathrooms are the same size, same stuff. Only thing different, only thing changed is left and right.
This year,
about 66.
Net total, about 66.
Yes, sir. That's the breakdown for everything that goes into one unit.
So you scroll that. Scroll down to the very bottom where it says kitchen and bath total.
Hey, you want to do something here?
Total net rate pay?
No, not that. Is that the number that we're looking at, Mr. Williams?
Sir?
This total with estimate. Oh, so the pre-tax total material So we need to multiply that number times 66.
Yes, sir, for material. And then you got the labor. And then the total estimated is your labor and your material. So it's pretty much that's what it costs to do one bathroom. But above it all is, I think, it's the breakdown of what Mr. Cullins wanted to see, the materials that were going in with the part numbers and everything like that on it. And it was there, and I remember Mr. Swan telling me that he was gonna send it like this, but I forgot he said it was gonna be on the different tabs in the bottom of the spreadsheet. It's on all of the spreadsheets that you already have, but it's just those 3 tabs in the bottom, you have to click on them individually.
Just to be clear, the material, the pre-tax subtotal for material is
$1,700.
is that the number that I'm looking at?
But you take
That'll be the pre-tax subtotal material is what, like 1255.15, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's the number that gets multiplied by 66.
Yes, sir. That's HD supply materials. In the labor, there is the backer board, grout, and red guard, which is a waterproofing membrane that go onto the backer board. Those materials will be supplied by the contractor, and it's in his labor for the install on those things.
So my next question to this is, the total with estimated tax is $10,379.15. Does that number get multiplied times 66?
Yes, sir.
And you get 685,023.90.
Where's the rest of it on there? That comes out, works out to their, what was it?
There was a revision. Let's see. Hold on, let me see that.
It's 685,000.
You mentioned some half baths. Is that it, or is there?
There's some half baths in there, and I think when they gave me the price back, it was originally the 665,000, and I said, well, I got room to. Oh, at first I only had I eliminated 10 bathrooms over there. I eliminated the site office and 7 of the bathrooms that had work done in it. Just because my independent cost estimate on this job was 1.3 million. But that was because I didn't factor in that HD supply owns it quickly. And I can see my independent cost estimate. It'll be in the contract, you'll be able to get to the contract. It will be included in it. But my independent cost estimate on it was 1.3 million. So in order to keep it about where we needed to spend for the money, I took some things, I eliminated a few bathrooms. And we got back to 715 because when they gave me the 635 price back, I told them to add the other 10 bathrooms back to it. Something I took out and had them add back to get to where we could try to spend all of it, which was pretty, which is
roughly, I'm looking at roughly the $30,000 difference.
I'm trying to think about where. Let me check my email and see what I added back to it. I added something. I added something back to it, and it might have been those. It might have been those half minutes.
It looks like on the proposal, we still have 66 units. I'm looking at tab 1. We have 66 units and the total is about $500 per unit more than it is on the line item. If that's helpful.
Yeah, that's all. It's all in there. Yeah, it's all in there.
We had 66 initially.
Yeah, I would see there was. I gotta remember how I changed it. I gotta remember how I changed it. That's I forgot. That was. What did I add? I added something. Hold on, Mr. Cullen. I'm trying to remember what I added. Cause they gave this to me. They actually gave it to me early. And when he called me back with the number, I told him to add something. I think it's the half bathrooms.
Full baths. So yeah, I think you added.
And I think where the 30 is coming from is the half bathrooms, because included in your packet you have my email back and forth with Ryan Brooks. You see, it was 66 full bathrooms. When he called me back with the number, I said, well, we got enough to go ahead and do the half bathrooms. I think that's where that other four, because the half bathrooms, they smaller and they don't have tubs in them.
How many half bathrooms are there?
6.
And we're about 30 grand off.
Yes, sir.
That math works in roundabout figures.
Yes, sir. I mean, I'll be certain to have a detailed breakdown of what it actually looks like before anything else. What is? And it
Two questions. One is, can you go over the not to exceed portion again there, Mr. Williams?
The not to exceed portion would be put in because you have some bathrooms that have been leaking. So when you go into them and you take those showers out, they are currently now the sheetrock on the walls, and then you have tile glue to that. The mortar joints have come loose. Now you're getting water intrusion into the walls, and they're affecting downstairs in the units as well. But when you start taking that out, you may run into finding studs that's rotten that may need to be replaced, and other issues like that. So and change orders, so the not to exceed covers the possibility for those things to happen. What's the percentage of contingency?
What would I not to exceed amount be?
Yeah, it's probably.
What would the not to exceed amount be?
The not to exceed amount would, I want to set it at 820, because, and there's also an option to it would be to exercise the option to use a larger format shower surround covering as opposed to 18 by 24 tiles, which is Mr. Swan. He called me about this Friday, but I was on the road coming back from Myrtle Beach, so I wasn't able to speak with him about it, but I did call him yesterday and speak with him about it. To make work go faster and to create less grout lines in the shower, they asked about doing a cultured marble slab in the shower. Like I said, we have those in Abbott Andrews already, but it's just a larger format shower covering, but it's a bit more expensive, but it cuts back on the time to install it and get the product back to the resident where they can use it. So there was that, and it'll increase the price. It'll increase the price. He was back and forth. He was talking with the contractor and should have had that number back for that this morning, what it would cost to change that. But the contingency would be for change orders, essentially.
So the material costs would be more expensive, but we would save on labor. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
But it would still fall within these parameters.
Yes, sir. You may, and I have to get those. I have to get those numbers exactly. I really didn't even want to mention that because I haven't received the numbers for that yet.
Well, I wish you had not. Now we got a question. And now we have to hold you to hold your feet to the fire on it.
Yeah.
Second question, I think goes more to Ms. Dyer. Within these capital funds, and I understand we have to have a contract in place relatively quickly. For this particular project here that we are doing, Mr. Edwards said earlier that he had, at his estimated cost to be significantly more than either one of these. Is there enough, obviously there's enough capital funds to cover this. Is there more
For what time?
capital funds than what we are currently spending between these two proposals on this, from the 2019 capital funds?
What we put in the plan with HUD that they agreed to in November, we inserted Brooklyn bathrooms into this one, not knowing the dollar amounts at that time. I also put some money in there for mold remediation. So if the bathrooms, and if we have $880,000, I think that's the amount. Does that sound right? I think
it's like $890.
Okay. So we have $800-something thousand. If the bathrooms take all $800 and something thousand, then we just don't do the mold remediation through that capital fund, but we have mold remediation in another capital fund. So because when these plans are normally approved in the way that it normally works, you have just gotten your when you're planning it, you don't know how much money you're going to get for that capital fund. You're putting estimates in. So, you know, it's okay if you have something in a capital fund and you don't get to it with the funding, that's okay. It's not, there's nothing wrong with spending every bit of this. There's nothing wrong, according to HUD, of not spending any money on mold remediation with this particular capital fund because we have it covered somewhere else, but you're allowed to use whatever money you have for the contract that, you know, your board approves for you for whatever it is you're doing.
What happens if we exceed the not to exceed designation? Would that come out of our operating budget, or would we still be able to pay for that out of capital funds? Does that make sense?
If we had
We would not exceed it.
No, but what happens?
we would not exceed it if it got to the point where it was even possible to exceed it. I would stop spending funds on it.
So, for example, we would not do the half beds.
Or not do some half-halves. Yeah, it would not exceed it.
Okay.
Yeah, HUD
The
says if
answer
you
to my question is, if we did exceed it, that would have to come out of our operating budget and would not attach to the capital funds.
Or.
Not necessarily. If you had it in another capital year fund, you could tap into those funds, which it is. But the contract itself has a not to exceed limit, so you can't exceed it on that contract. You would have to do another contract for it.
Sure.
What?
Yes.
Look,
Okay.
No.
Let me work. I'm trying to work it out in my head because that was a can of worms for me and something broke up there. So if the contract, if this bathroom contract was about to exceed itself as far as the money spent, then we could just tap into, issue a new contract for whatever is potentially not done for future capital funds that are already allocated to us.
if Brooklyn bathrooms were listed in an upcoming capital fund year, if it was already something that was in an upcoming plan, which, not to complicate this, but Brooklyn Bathrooms was already in our 5-year plan. That's why HUD was able to just say, okay, I'm gonna move it to this one, okay? Because it was already something that was planned, but it was in the future. But they were bad enough where we felt like, because in the summer of 2021, that's when all of the Brooklyn Bathrooms issues started coming up. I think 2021?
Yeah, they started.
Okay.
Pretty bad then.
We started having major problems with the bathrooms. If the 800 and something thousand didn't cover it, if the board chose to approve another contract to do something for this, you could.
So just as an example, the other contract's only for 33. So if we had approved the 33, we could still come back and approve the additional 33 in another contract.
Yes, if it was already in a 5-year plan, yes.
We just moved.
Okay.
We just
All right.
moved forward. We just
I'm
moved
clear now. I think so. Good enough. Okay.
This is part of your 5-year plan. We did it in 7 months.
About 13, 14.
When we went to HUD and said we want to revise this, we weren't pulling something out of the air, we were pulling something out of our 5-year plan to bump it up to a higher priority. That's all we were doing.
Okay. And if we do the Gordian contract, we still have half the bathrooms in Brooklyn Homes that we would have to issue another contract for.
Yes, sir. And
What else you got, commissioners? You got any additional questions on this? And I would, in the additional, because it's not in the paperwork that we have, I just want to make sure that it is whatever we vote on, that it's pending that additional materials list for the differentiation in the materials list cost and what we have in the proposal.
yes, sir. And I can get that.
About you, Commissioner Collins, you got any other questions on this bathroom renovation for Brooklyn Homes?
Just a kind of final mop-up question. So the ask would be for, if we went with Home Depot, 66 bathrooms, total of $715,000 percent of the bid with a not to exceed of $820,000. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Got it.
Okay.
Not to exceed clause 820,000.
Any additional questions? I will entertain a motion for the approval of a contract on the Brooklyn Homes bathroom renovations.
I'd like to make a motion that we approval with this contract submitted.
Which?
The one that's gonna take care of everything that we need to get done. Yeah, HDC. Yeah, HDC. Definitely not go there, because you're going to have to come back with another contract for HDC.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Dickerson to approve HD Supply contract for the Brooklyn Homes bathroom renovations. Seconded by Commissioner Cullins. Is there any further discussion?
Just need to include a not to exceed provision of $820,000 in that contract.
Is that a motion for the amendment to it? And if so,
That's a motion to amend.
And if so, I would like to, if you will, I mean, that's completely up to you, the additional,
Material list.
the updated, pending the updated material list to be given to the commission before the deadline of this contract.
You read my mind exactly, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Cullins. Oh God, let's go through that again. What did we say? To add in the not to exceed clause for, what did you say, 820,000?
Yes, sir.
Right.
And the pending the updated materials list to be submitted to the board electronically before the deadline. That's the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner Dickerson. Okay, so we gotta make the, okay, so we're at the amendment. So is there any, that was first and second. Is there any further discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Did he-
Commissioner Dawson? Can you unmute your phone, please?
Yes, yes.
Did he
Can you
vote?
hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Did you vote yes or yay or nay? Can he hear me?
I couldn't hear you.
Ask him if he votes yay or nay on the HD's amendment.
Chairman Kiss is asking if you're voting yay or nay on the motion that's on the floor.
Okay.
He said yay.
So that was, opposed have the same. Hearing none, the amendment passes unanimously. And going back to the original motion was the approval of HD supply contract. Do we have any further discussion on that one? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed have the same. That motion passes unanimously. Okay, we'll move on to the Jobs Plus. Did you send that information over to Commissioner Cullins as well?
I'm gonna change.
I'm here, you know, speak quickly for the sake of time.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I just wanted to make sure everyone had really quickly what I had provided, which was kind of the proposed organizational chart, as well as kind of just a brief summary, kind of where you all can jump, start the program and implement
approximately 6 months ago to you guys. I don't know if you're gonna go through that or just that was my ask. That was really more informational. I just wanted to make sure that you did have that in case you had questions about the Jobs Plus program in advance to the next board meeting in March. If you have any questions about that, you can just send those in writing and I can get a response for the next board meeting. But the ask is, on March the 1st, the 6 month proposed budget is due. When going through the grant and the budget, I noticed that the figures for the fringe benefits are not equal to what BHA is currently paying for staff. I met with Jamie at length to try to figure out how to reallocate the funds. But unless you approve to reduce the benefits, these figures, or make these positions independent contractors, you're really gonna keep numbers work as they were submitted.
What do you mean? Can you explain that in a little more depth for me?
So if, in the Jobs Plus grant, when the salary portion was designated, there's a position for program director, program manager, administrative assistant, a job developer, 2 community coaches, and 6 case managers. But when they calculated the fringe benefits, they did it at 28 and 25%. According to Jamie, the housing authority pays closer to 47%.
What do you, for their, like, the insurance and all that?
Insurance, yes, the benefits. Yes, this is the benefit.
So
if we were to go to independent contractor, these numbers really wouldn't matter. They will cover the taxes. If we were to go with employees, we would have to either ask you all to allow them to just get, maybe they can select what benefits. I don't know exactly how to do it, but I just wanted to explain kind of what the challenge is. The 6 months of budget is due on March the 1st, so I just wanted to give you guys plenty of time to review it and come back with a recommendation or any questions.
Is there an option to eliminate one of the positions or does that not get us anywhere?
It does not, on the Jobs Plus grant, it specifies exactly how many positions you have to have and what positions are.
Understood.
So, when we last did the salary wage increase, we were already over 32% compensation. Does that have anything to do with the same money that we're gonna pay for these positions here?
No.
No.
And just to piggyback on that question from Madam Vice Chair, these salaries are paid out of
The Jobs Plus grant.
Oh, the Jobs Plus
It
grant.
doesn't come out
Okay.
of any of our existing
No,
or
that's
already.
why
budgeted.
she's asking, because if we continue the Jobs Plus grant on the current way we have payroll set up, the money that they have set up for Jobs Plus grant, the fringe benefits is what we pay in fringe benefits is more than what the Jobs Plus grant has got allocated. It's a difference of, like she says, the housing authority pays 47%. Jobs Plus only figured 22%. 27%. So there's
28 and 25% is what they have here. So based on the calculations that Jamie had, if insurance rate stayed the same over the 4 years of the grant, there'd be at least $150,000 shortfall if we were to cover them the way that the housing authority currently covers them, and that money would have to come from the housing authority.
When they did this Job Plus grant, is it conducive to the size of our housing authority? Or is this just a mandatory, is this just a template for this job grant, period?
It was based on the number of participants that were targeted in the proposal, which was 300 participants.
Ms. Lewis, they will allow us to do contractors, right?
They absolutely will. We would have to go and, ask for an amendment. They will allow us to go to independent contractor status. And they will allow us to make some modifications to some other budget line items, but we would have to make some other eliminations. So that's why, the option isn't really with the salary, but if there's something else on here that we could change, that's the possibility. But there was nothing specifically, no one line item would help make that insurance figure work. But they will. We just have to ask them to make them from salary to independent contractors. They do have that line item. Job Plus has to approve that and reallocate those funds under a different line item. But they've given us the opportunity to do that, and that's what this time period is right now, to just review the budget and make sure that everything we have is gonna work.
Okay, and how
Ms.
soon?
Lewis, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Commissioner.
Ms. Lewis, I was just gonna ask, do we have to, if we request that amendment, do we have to treat all of the identified positions the same? I guess what I'm asking is, could we make the community coaches independent contractors and leave the program manager as an employee, or any combination like that?
Absolutely, that's certainly an option. We could take like the community coach or the case management and make that a contracted, but we do have to follow the procurement process. So that's the other thing, is that if we are gonna make that change, one of the reasons I provided the guidance with the deadlines is because if that is a change that we're gonna have to make, I do wanna make sure we follow the procurement process for the housing authority and advertise it that way. Because I do wanna advertise these positions sooner rather than later, so I just need to find out the best way to advertise those positions. So we can certainly do a hybrid. If you'd like Dave and I to run a scenario, we could run some scenarios and see how we can make it work.
I would be in favor of that. It occurs to me that the program director and program manager probably need to be employees, and beyond that, I don't really have a thought. But yeah, some scenarios would be great.
Okay, so we can certainly put some scenarios together for the next board meeting presentation, or to get you in advance of the next board meeting presentation with that one.
What's the hard, it says here that there's a March 1st deadline,
The March deadline is for the 6-month budget. So regardless of how those positions end up going, we still would have to request those funds. It'll take them about 48 hours to respond if we move them over. But if we would still request the 6 months, I think we have $474,000 that we're requesting in the 6-month budget. When we would make the change for them to go to salaries, they would just reallocate that portion to a different line item moving forward. We wouldn't draw down on any of it because we have those positions. They're just asking us to request it.
But Miss Lewis, can we have a couple of scenarios by the end of this week or first of next week? Is that possible? So that
Absolutely.
They need to give the commissioners more time to digest before the board meeting and probably have a final recommendation.
Let me just, because that was some of it. What, is there an approval that the board needs to have today for this Jobs Plus?
Not not today. Just I thought that they had to approve these positions today. The positions had to be approved today, correct, Ms. Lewis?
Well, I guess I would like to advertise for the position, but if we need to run the scenario first to figure out the best way to allocate the funds, then I can't really advertise the position, so I don't know how the benefits are gonna work yet.
The position needs to be approved.
I would like a motion that we gonna move the conversation forward on the motion, but, as far as the decision to be made today, I don't know that it sounds like we can't make a decision until Jamie and I come back with these scenarios. So I would like to advertise and kind of stay on the timeline, but I do also understand that there's a budgetary question we need to get a solution for before I would feel comfortable advertising, so I can tell people exactly whether they're gonna be an employee with benefits versus independent contractor. Because for me, that's an important consideration when I'm deciding whether or not I'm gonna take an opportunity or not.
Okay, we can decide that and with the scenario, but we need these positions approved by the board. So whether they be contractors or they be employees, we can decide that later this week.
Or at the next board meeting.
Or at the
Okay,
next-
just so I'm clear. We have to approve the positions.
Yes,
The org chart,
yeah.
but whether or not they are contractors or employees and the additional finance and financial structure that goes with it is not something the board needs to have approved at this moment. We just need to know that these are the positions
Yes.
and the rest of it can be handled at the next board meeting,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
if
Yes.
you're implementing these positions, I'm looking for your support to help promote that these positions are gonna be available, so, yes.
Mr. Chair, may I?
Yes, sir, Commissioner Collins, go ahead.
And I could be off mark here, still learning, as they say. It occurs to me that these positions have already been approved by us applying for the grant, and they've dictated that these positions have to be created. So, if it's arranged in a scheme where, scheme is not the best word to use in federal government.
Probably not, but we understand.
Now we're
I'll take that back off the record. But if there was a mechanism where all of the, where say 4 of the positions were employees and the remainder were contractors, would that not fall to the day-to-day operation of the BHA?
I believe so.
We would need to actually approve the positions since we've already approved them.
I believe so. Don't quote me on that, but I do believe that the makeup of the positions is more to the day-to-day side. Just the fact that we are now know that we can have these positions. I think that's the part where the board comes in at. But don't quote me on this, because I think we're all still kind of treading water here.
Sure. Just a thought to streamline it, so,
And I'm all for streamlining. I did not know exactly the proper protocol, but I didn't wanna bring it forward as a, item.
That's an indication we don't need a vote.
The reason why is because the original organization chart that was approved back in November, December, did not have these on, because at that point, the Jobs Plus grant was not awarded yet. So that is why,
Yes.
we don't want any unclear questions when we hire people that were these people on the org chart. They weren't on that one, so this is an additional Jobs Plus org chart.
Got it.
understood.
Security.
You guys are seriously
Thank you, Ms. Ogden. Thank you.
breaking my hamster today.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so approving the org chart, not necessarily anything else that goes with it, because these jobs are not a part of our current existing org chart.
Right.
Whew. I love it. What's your pleasure, commissioners?
Let's make a motion. That's my pleasure.
I can't do
That's
it.
common sense.
Can you make a motion to approve?
Are you making a motion?
Yeah, I was waiting on you I make a motion that we approve the Jobs Plus Grant proposed organizational chart. Is that clear?
Yes.
For the record.
I have a motion by Commissioner Dickerson to approve the Jobs Plus Grant proposed organizational chart. Do we have a second? Is Madam Vice Chair on? She said she was logging into Zoom.
I have a question about the job plus grant. I think that's a good grant, but what, are they offering us particular positions, or do we have to invest, come up with positions for the residents? I mean, what would it do for us to have to mandate all these new positions that already wasn't implied into the organizational chart?
Before we can get into discussion, the motion is on the
What
floor.
positions are they offering? Are they offering positions that we already have, or do we have to invest in them?
Madam Vice Chair, what we have is a motion on the floor. I gotta go through the process. It either needs to be second or it needs to fail, and then we can go back into further discussion. The motion on the floor is to approve the Jobs Plus Grant proposed organizational chart. That's been a motion. I need to understand if we have a second at this point.
Should I discuss it? Did you hear it?
Commissioner Dawson,
Second, get ready.
Yes.
did you hear the motion that's on the floor?
And hang on, guys, we're trying to get, is he there?
Commissioner Dobson?
All right, so I have the motion on the floor to approve the Jobs Plus Grant proposed organizational chart going once. Do I have a second? Going twice. Do I have a second? Going thrice. Do I have a second? That motion fails. So, Madam Vice Chair, what is your question?
I don't have it now.
I have an observation, Mr. Chair, if that's okay. At our last special call meeting, we were presented with an indecent proposal that we needed to approve salaries for positions that on an organizational chart that had already been approved. So we're looking back to October, I think October and November, we approved positions on an org chart that then came back to bite us, and we had to approve the salaries for that. That's the situation I would have to avoid here and approve the org chart and the resolution of the hiring simultaneously at the next board meeting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, first of all, these positions are grant funded. We're not from out of our funds. One of the reasons that we're looking to go contractor is to avoid the insurance issues that we have. The budgets will be set, and the salary will be set based on where they fall. But the org chart is an independent org chart that's independent of our agency. But we need the org chart to show the downline and the organization, how this organization is going to, how the Job Plus grant is going to operate. And so it's essential that we pass this org chart in order to meet our deadline.
Salaries has already been set.
Well,
So the salary,
we were just presented with information that if all of these positions were filled on an employee basis, and there's been no resolution to that, then it would exceed the amount, and it would require staff to come back to us to approve further salary increases. That's exactly what was told to us, correct?
right, so that's what we're trying to avoid now, and that's one of the recommendations I made to Ms. Lewis is to get permissions to move everyone to contract, and I just informed that we could do that. And I understand your concern as well, Commissioner Cullen, which is excellent point, and so we're going to avoid that issue by all costs. So the salaries the whole operation of salaries and anything associated with them and benefits would come from this program. And so if we can't do salary benefits, then there would be contractors. It's just that simple. Kim?
Can you possibly approve the organization chart with the basis that it does not exceed what the grant allows and open it up for however many positions have to be contracted, whether it's the bottom 5 or whether it's a mixture of. Can you approve the org chart because it's a totally separate org chart than what the housing authority org chart is?
But I have a question. My question is, what is the Job Plus grant? What is it going to bring to the housing authority? Or do we have to invent jobs for the residents, or are they given a certain jobs to get residents to work on and into? What is the requirement?
The Jobs Plus grant actually opens up these positions in this org chart. Will work with our residents to get them geared out to go outside of our agency to get jobs. It will give them job training. It will give them ways to go out into the public, get them connections with other organizations to get them jobs.
So let me say this. Right now, we are being inundated with all types of things that are going to the residents. We had on the table Sea Island, which they didn't come before the board of.
Please stick to the Jobs Plus grant, Madam Vice Chair. Please stick to the Jobs Plus grant.
No, this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. I'm saying that they're putting on the table all these different organizations, nonprofit and grants. I have no problem with it. But if we're already doing these things, why are we adding on more? Because we don't even have anybody organizing what we already have. And so, and at the last minute, we're asked to understand this, put this on the table, and vote on it. And so all I'm saying is, it's just too much stacked on top of each other, and we're not getting any clarification of how it works. And I don't want it to come back and say, well, we approve this, and we have to give more money, this, that, or the other thing. Or if we already have a position, we have FSS, we have ROG that's been on the table since the last administration, and it has not put forward to the front now. And so now we're with this job grant. So we really need to add more positions onto the organizational chart to hire more people to do things that we are already going on.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, for your comments. Question. I want to ask this question, and I need a very clear answer. If we do not approve this organizational chart today, what does it stop?
Funding. We jeopardize this grant. And when I was brought here, you all asked me to come in to transition this.
Now, hang on, thank you, that's all I need to hear. So if we don't approve this organizational chart today, we lose funding.
We jeopardize it.
And yes. Jeopardize the entire $3 million grant.
Yes.
Is that what's... Go ahead, Commissioner Collins, I think you got a question.
Ms. Lewis, is that your understanding as well?
What's that to me? Say that again?
Is that your understanding as well? Ms. Lewis.
Yeah,
Ms. Lewis.
Ms. Lewis.
Ms. Lewis.
I'm not saying that it'll be jeopardized. It may jeopardize it. They've given us a very tight deadline. I have a very close relationship with our grant administrator, so I'm going to bring all this to her in advance of our Thursday call to find out the best next steps forward so I can get them to you. Because we were supposed to have made some decisions, and we are supposed to be actively hiring already.
Okay, so commissioners, here's my understanding of this. We can approve the organizational chart today, or we can wait for Ms. Lewis to have her call on Thursday, schedule another special call before March 1st, and try to get it done then. What is your pleasure, commissioners?
I'd like to make a motion that we move forward with the Jobs Plus grant proposed organizational chart. That's my motion.
Got a motion on the floor to approve the Jobs Plus grant proposed organizational chart. Do we have a second?
A second.
I have a second by Commissioner Dobson. Is there any further discussion?
Assuming this can be done, I would amend the motion to cap, to approve the proposed org chart and an amount of salary not to exceed the authorized funding pursuant to the Jobs Plus program.
Excellent. I have a motion. I have a motion by Commissioner Cullins to amend the motion to, for the salaries or contract salaries not to exceed the cap for the grant. Seconded by Commissioner Dobson, or Dickerson. Any further discussion on the amendment?
Yeah, so my question is this. When we hire these positions that the grant tells us we're supposed to have, if we don't have any space in the office now, where are they going to go?
Is that dealing with the specific amendment to the motion, Madam Vice Chair? Any further discussion on the amendment to the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Dobson.
Is he listening?
Commissioner Dobson.
Listen here.
Did he? I didn't hear his vote. Ask his vote. I
What's
didn't
your
hear
vote,
him.
sir?
Okay. Opposed have the same.
Yeah, I understand.
Are you abstaining or opposing?
I'm abstaining.
So that motion passes 4-0 with 1 abstention. Now, going to the original motion, which was the approval of the Jobs Plus grant proposed organizational chart. That's already there. Is there any further discussion on that particular matter? We already have the amendment to it. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Commissioner Dobson.
Mine is an aye as well. Dobson's kind of going in and out on his phone. We're just trying to make sure we get
I said
everything.
aye.
Okay, he does say aye. Opposed have the same. Madam Vice Chair,
Yeah, I oppose. Mhm.
you oppose?
Yes,
Okay, that motion passes 4-1.
okay.
Next up on the agenda is Baker's contract. Is that's what you put on there. So, are you prepared, Mr. Baker, for us to go into, I guess, this executive session for the contract? All right, I will entertain a motion to move into executive session.
I make the motion that we move into
Motion to move
executive.
executive session.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Dickerson to move to executive session, seconded by Commissioner Cullins. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed have the same. I did not hear Dobson. I'm sorry, Madam Vice hear your vote for executive session.
Yeah,
Executive session, okay.
yeah.
Okay, so that motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We are moving into executive session. And we're wrapping up. We're now back from executive session. We're in regular session. On the subject of Mr. Baker's contract, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we pass along those revisions to Attorney Hartman for legal analysis and reconvene on the matter at a later date.
I have a motion from Commissioner Cullen to pass the amendments from Mr. Baker's contract, or Mr. Baker and his contract to Attorney Hartman for legal review and reconvene it at a later date. Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
I have a second by Commissioner Dobson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed have the same. That motion passes unanimously. On the subject of the search for a permanent executive director, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Brunswick Housing Authority gather proposals from executive search firms to begin the search for a permanent executive director of the Brunswick Housing Authority.
I have a motion by Commissioner Cullen to engage search firms so that we can choose which search firm to utilize for the purpose of finding a new permanent executive director. Is that right, Mr. Collins?
That is the motion.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I second that.
Seconded by Madam Vice Chair Bailey. Is there any further discussion? Hear none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed have the same. That motion passes unanimously. There's no further business on our agenda today. I will entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Motion to adjourn this meeting of the Brunswick Housing Authority, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Cullis to adjourn the meeting of the Brunswick Housing Authority, seconded by Commissioner Dickerson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed have the same. That motion passes unanimously. This meeting now stands adjourned. Thank you all, and we will speak again real soon.